6 years of dividend investing. We're going to look at a portfolio starting at 77,258 right up to 6 years later, see if we made any money. We contributed every year from our own salary and we received dividends every year. But did we make money every year? No, not every year. Some years were negative, but overall, all's good. Let's see how we did. Welcome to Destination Wealth. We're going to be looking at my SIP portfolio at the starting balance at the end of 2018, a portfolio value of £77,258 to 2019, where it grew to £93,470, 2020, £100,301, 2021, £148,787, 2022, £172,099, and up to 2023, £177,533. Now that all sounds great, doesn't it? But what did I actually pay in every year? Maybe I paid in more than what the value of the portfolios were. Maybe I didn't. Maybe some years I was up, some years I was down. That's what we'll be having a look at. Let's start off with 2018. I received dividends in 11 of the 12 months, not quite reaching my target of dividends being paid every single month of the year, but it was getting close. The largest month was £289 in August, and the yearly passive income that came in was £1,672. That was 41% more than in 2017. And this gave me an average monthly passive income of £139.33. The portfolio at this point stood at £77,258. Here are the stocks and the dividends that paid me throughout that year. So here we can see from January through to December of 2019. And I received dividends every single month. Some months were tiny payments, like April and July, whereas others, like September, was a fantastic £551, far more than I'd received in any other month prior to that. I was happy to have reached the point where I was being paid something passively every month of the year. That was a first. This year's income was from an invested amount of £93,470. And my total dividend income for that year was £2,492, which was the equivalent of £207.71 per month, which was a 49% increase in the dividends I was receiving compared to the previous year, which was superb. I was really focusing on ploughing in as much money as possible into my SIP. I was paying in on average about £500 a month. And because of the tax relief you receive on that when you pay into a SIP, the government then topped that up to £625 a month for a total year deposit amount of £7,500 for the whole of 2019. That's what I paid in. So here are the stocks that I owned at the time and the dividends that they paid me throughout that year. Most of them paid twice a year. Some, like Shell, for example, pay 4 times a year, which is nice. So by the end of 2019, I was so close to hitting that all-important £100,000 in the SIP. One year later then, you can see here that I received dividends in 10 of the 12 months. I didn't receive any in July or in October, with the largest month being £439 in September. This year, I hit £2,431.50. In passive dividend income, and that equated to £202.62 per month. Here you can see the stocks and the dividends that they paid me throughout the year of 2020. Like previous years, most companies pay twice a year. They tend to call an interim payment, which is usually smaller than the final dividend payment, which is a lot larger. Sometimes, when a company has an exceptional year, like B&M did, they pay their shareholders an extra dividend called a special dividend. This is great. You don't know when it's coming, but certain companies have a track record of doing that. The portfolio in 2020 now stood at £100,031. Yes, I'd hit that £100,000 milestone. Let's now move on to 2021 and see what happened in the transition to that year. I received dividends in all of the 12 months this time, and the largest month being £500 in September. Companies in 2021 had started to reinstate their dividends, so there was now a really nice increase in the yearly passive income that came in at £3,156. That was a 30% increase on the previous year. And this gave me an average monthly passive income of £263.06 every month on average for not really doing anything. I was extremely happy with the SIP value at the end of the year, which stood an incredible 148,787. So nearly 48,000 increase in 1 year. So throughout 2021, I hadn't paid in as much. The average monthly amount I was paying, it varied from one month to the next, but the average worked out at about £400 a month. And here again is the list of the stocks and the dividends that they paid me throughout that year. You'll probably notice a couple of new ones in there. 2 new ones that I still own now. Games Workshop, which is an awesome dividend payer that often pays out those special dividends. And I also bought into DSCV or Discovery. Here are the monthly payments I received in my Hargreaves Lansdowne SIP, my self-invested personal pension, for the whole year. Payments again in every month, and a superb month of payments in February, topping out at £809.87. And it was getting close to that £1,000 monthly milestone. Here you can see the stocks that I owned in the SIP and the dividends and how they paid me throughout that year. Most of them paid twice a year. Some, like Shell, pay dividends 4 times a year, but you can see how regularly they come in. On this next screen, I'll show you one of those dividend payments that was reinvested, the fees I was charged for reinvesting it. By reinvesting through the DRIP program, which is just dividend reinvestment plan, most brokers have that option. Fees are very low. Here are the monthly payments received in my Hargreaves Lansdowne SIP for the whole year of 2023. Payments every month, and a superb month of payments back in February, just shy of £1,000 at £911.38. I was getting close to that £1,000 monthly milestone from one account there. Total income just in the SIP for the whole year was £5,069, which was a 37% increase on the previous year in that SIP. Now we've looked at each of those individual years from 2018 up to 2023. Let's have a look at actually how much money we really made, how much I paid in from my own contributions from my bank account every month, how much the dividends were each year, how much the capital growth was on the stocks each year, and how much profit we actually made, including the dividends and excluding the dividends. So 2018, £77,258. That year I contributed £7,500 into the SIP. The dividend payments were £1,672. And the total increase of the portfolio value on the year before was 3,608. That's stripping out the contributions. So that's the increase, including the dividends and the capital appreciation. 2019, 93,470 is what the portfolio stood at. Again, contributions for the year of £7,500. The dividends I received were 2,492, and the total increase was 8,712. Again, excluding that 7,500 contributions and excluding the 77,258 from the year before. So that's just the total increase. 2020, 100,301 the portfolio stood at. I'd hit that all-important milestone of £100,000 in invested funds in one account. And I created another video based on this about how when I seem to reach that £100,000, not just in this account, but when I reached £100,000 earlier than that across all my accounts, how the portfolio just seemed to grow exponentially. It really did trigger something that meant what I was bringing in each month was starting to outpace what I was paying in. So if you're interested in that, then there's another video and I'll link it in the notes below. It looks like this. It goes into detail into how my investments really did skyrocket when I reached that £100,000 mark, and how yours could do the same. So yeah, 2020, £100,000, £100,301. Again, £7,500 contributions. The dividends I received was £2,431. And that year, when I strip out the 7,500 and what I did the year before, it was a negative £669. So I was actually down £669 that year. But 2021, it just goes to show that as long as you stay in the game and don't sell out when things go bad. Now, we all know what happened in 2019, 2020. It was turmoil in the stock market due to the pandemic. But I held on and I bought more when the stocks were down, and I knew there were good stocks that were hopefully going to pull through the problems in the wider economy. Things paid off. So 2021, you can see the portfolio jumped to £148,787. Again, I only paid in 7,500 of my own money. My dividends jumped to £3,156 for the year. And stripping out the 7,500 and the previous £100,000 that I had invested from 2020, my increase, my profit for that year, just dividends and capital appreciation, was £40,986, just shy of £41,000. So that negative 669 from the previous year was completely insignificant compared to the growth I had a year later just from holding on. So 2022, £172,099. Now that year I only paid in £5,375. Can't remember why. Must have had some bills or something, extra payments that went out. I think we might have bought a daughter a car, something like that. But yeah, the payments I paid in were less. £5,375 only paid in that year. And my dividends were 3,696. So not much of an increase on the previous year. But even with that, and with my contributions stripped out and the previous amount from the year before, my profit for the year was £17,937. So pretty good still. 2023, £177,533 the portfolio stood at. I paid in £6,100 that year of my own funds, and my dividends had a massive jump, £5,069 for the year. Still, having said that, even with that £5,000 dividend payment for the year, stripping out the 6,100 I paid in and what we had in the portfolio in 2022, I was minus £666 for the year again. So out of the 6 years, 2 of them were negative, but negative only £660. The other years were massively up. So those two negatives, just from not selling out and holding on, were pretty insignificant. And you'll see that when I do a final report of 2024, a full year, which will be coming soon. Let's look at some totals. So the total contributions I made over the 6-year period. So the amount of money I paid in from my bank account for the 6 years amounted to £41,475, which averages about £6,900 a year if I spread it out. That some years, the last 2 years, 2022, 23, were less than the 7,500 I was paying in years before that. So 41,475 is what I paid in total. The dividends I received for those 6 years totaled £18,516, which was at an average of £3,086 a year if we average those out. But more importantly, the total increase, that's dividends and capital appreciation, stripping out the contributions that I made, was £69,908, just shy of £70,000 in 6 years, which I'm pretty happy with. That works out at £11,651 on average a year that I made pretty much passively. Dividend income and capital appreciation, just from not selling out through those difficult years. Of that £69,908, 51,000 of that was stock price growth. Now, this wasn't my first 6 years of dividend investing. I've actually done a video where it documents the previous 6 years to this, starting at 2013, where the portfolio was just £25,000. And I go through exactly the same process, how it grew right up to 2018 at £77,000. If that's something you're interested in, check it out here.